560 mobile app and your Alexa-powered smart speaker on TuneIn, iHeart, and radio.com.
It is 8:36 in the Team Hochberg Traffic Center. Here's Jim Telemonte.
Eastbound Reagan Tollway traffic is a little heavy, Naperville Road to Yackley, and then it's stop and go from Highland to Midwest. It's a crash. 2 left lanes are blocked, and then it's heavy. 22nd to the Tri-State, where the exit to southbound 294 is partially blocked with a collision. On the northbound Tri-State, it's bumper to bumper from the mile-long bridge to 31st, and from the Reagan Tollway to the Eisenhower southbound, your roadwork delay from the Stevenson to LaGrange Road. Eden's 18 minutes like Hook to Montrose. Kennedy, 50 minutes O'Hare to downtown, 31 from Montrose, 30 on the Express. Eisenhower, 49 minutes from 390 and 36 from Wolf. Stevenson, 48 minutes, 3:55 to the drive. Ryan, 35 minutes from 95th. I'm Jim Telemonte on AM 560 The Answer.
Chicago's Morning Answer continues next. Your official Chicagoland weather forecast from the 1 Hour Heating and Air Conditioning Weather Center. Cloudy skies, 35 today. Mostly cloudy, 24 overnight. 25 at O'Hare, 30 Lakefront. Your next news update is at 9. And Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan and Amy continues next on AM 560, The Answer.
This hourly segment is brought to you by Papa Nicholas Coffee. Papa Nicholas Coffee, a family tradition since 1897.
Only the biggest stories, only the biggest guests, and only the biggest opinions. This is AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan and Amy. So phase one of that U.S.-China trade deal seems to be moving along, at least this aspect of it, the tariff reduction. China saying yesterday it would reduce tariffs on $75 billion worth of American goods. Then we'll see if they hold up another piece of this, which is to purchase $200 billion of American goods over the next 2 years. And the reduction on the Chinese side is part of a joint reduction, U.S. agreeing to reduce tariffs on $120 billion worth of Chinese-made goods as part of that deal. And so there's reciprocation. So at least we're off to a fairly good start with respect to the Chinese and that phase one deal.
Are people in China still buying things? Because I thought they were confined to their homes.
Well, it's good news for American consumers and businesses, and so that's good news for good news for us as they combat the coronavirus and the pandemic they've allowed to spread in their country, and hopefully that is quelled, including with our help, because that's what we do. For more on the trade environment, plus the January jobs numbers, 225,000 jobs in January. We're pleased to be joined by Scott Shellady, Scott the Cow Guy, Fox Business regular. Scott, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Good morning.
Morning.
Good morning.
So 2.25 K on the jobs front, continues to be an economy that's chugging along, even if there's going to be some GDP revisions down this quarter because of Boeing and coronavirus. We're still creating jobs and clocking in at a 2% GDP growth.
Yeah, I mean, if you take into consideration Iowa caucuses and the State of the Union, this is pretty much icing on the manure cake that the Democrats have been baking for themselves all week. They've seen some great growth. I mean, look, we had 225,000 jobs this month, but that's like a 211,000 3-month average versus last year's 175,000 average per month. So things are actually accelerating. I think that the worry's always been how long can this acceleration last, right? We're about 10 years into this. But if you go down to Australia, they're in their 29th year of acceleration. So who knows? I mean, we're still making some great strides while the rest of the world's not.
Well, and the acceleration on that front too, we can continue accelerating as we're bringing more people off the sidelines and into the job market. And so you saw a 1/10 of a point increase in the unemployment rate because of the increase in labor participation.
Yeah, there was 183,000 people. So that's pretty significant, and that's exactly what needs to happen. And that's also why you saw the unemployment rate tick up a tad to 3.6. But, all in all, if you look across the numbers, we're really not seeing the inflation kick in. We're not seeing employers compete with wages for employees. I mean, this is a solid jobs number. I think, if I had to pick it apart and say the worst thing about it for me is, if a 3.5, 3.6 unemployment rate, you should be probably growing better than 2%. That's probably the worst takeaway you can get from it. We should see wages ticking up more than they are. So there is still some sort of leak in our economic system. But all in all, compared to everybody else around us, especially Europe, we're doing really well.
Well, Europe and China, I mean, the Asian markets are stumbling as this coronavirus concerns linger. What does it mean for our stock market? And I know a lot of people who sold stocks concerned that everything is going to crash because of what's going on in China.
And when she says a lot of people, she means her.
Right. Everybody in Lakeview. I would say, Amy, there again, when I started off with the fact that we've been expanding for 10 years and Australia's been expanding for 29, a lot of folks are selling or looking for a reason to sell because they may think that the expansion is over, and we keep talking about these black swan events, these things that nobody could see coming, which were the catalyst for a big market sell-off. Everybody thought coronavirus is going to be the one. That's the black swan event. As it's turned out, to my vodka-loving friends, it's been more of a gray goose. And so we still are up 2.3% on the year, even though today we're going to see a sell-off here. And the reason why we're seeing a sell-off here is not from coronavirus, like some of the eggheads are talking about on TV this morning. It's just due to the fact that we've seen a 1,100-point rally in 4 days. And by the way, stocks are allowed to go down as well.
Including Tesla. Surprisingly, Tesla is allowed to go down. And talk about the exuberance surrounding cult of personality. Explain Tesla to us.
Well, it's got a unique combination that the world got excited about earlier in the week, when it's also kind of viewed as a tech stock. It's also kind of viewed as something, visionary. There's a little bit of a cult following, and also we've got a real big short interest. Like some real smart guys on Wall Street really don't like it, and so they've gone and sold it before they've owned it. Well, those kind of things have kind of come together for the perfect storm and shot this thing through the roof. And then on top of that, some fairly well-respected analysts came out and said that they saw that stock. Now we're talking about a stock that's trading $725. They still think that stock can go to $7,000, maybe $15,000. So you saw that thing trade up over $900 a share. It scared a lot of people out. Now it's come back to reality a little bit, but it's still up significantly on the year, and he's benefiting from a bunch of different things that are all kind of lining up in his favor.
So we talked to Steve Moore earlier in the week from the Journal. He wrote the book Trumponomics, so he's a fan, obviously. And but he did make mention, one of the things that was not in the State of the Union address was anything on the spend side in terms of restraining spending, much less cutting spending. And as you're looking for things that are preventing the economy from clipping along at a rate that it should be, given the low unemployment, could federal spend, debt, unfunded obligations, could that be crowding out the sort of private investment that would lead to GDP growth?
Maybe a little bit. He didn't mention some of those things because probably those are, well, at least like let's say the national debt. That's one of the only real big things that the Democrats can really go after him for. And by the way, I didn't like it when Obama spent as much money as he did, and Trump's spending more.
Right.
So I know that he's counting on the economy getting better and have some sort of trickle-down effect to help with tax receipts and the like that will help in that deficit. But right now, he's nowhere near what he wants to get done there, and that's part of the reason why you've heard him really chirp about getting interest rates lower too. I can't imagine cutting interest rates even after this number, especially after this number that we got today. And you know what? That's another one of those things that just doesn't sit well. It doesn't pass the smell test. You want to cut interest rates when we're looking at stocks at all-time record highs. So there still are a few things that don't add up, and I guess that's going to be Powell's job to figure it out. But up until now, we're still doing better than everybody else, and that's what's kind of keeping us going.
Yeah, but on the spend side, so here's the sort of the retrenched position of the Democrats, as best exemplified by that Nobel Prize winner from Middle Earth, Paul Krugman, saying that sure, I was wrong about the market tanking when Trump was elected. I overstated. I corrected it, and I corrected my prediction because I was a little upset by the victory, and so I let that get the best of me. But now he's saying, well, sure, because you have a Keynesian play, that's what is allowing the economy to grow. Speaking as a Keynesian, of course, it's all of this government spend that you're describing. That's why you have the kind of economic growth that we're having, because it's stimulative.
Yeah, I mean, there's something to be said for that, but you can also stop listening to him after he said I was wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the government is a large part of the economy, obviously, but there are other parts of the economy that we have seen a significant rebound in that should give you some comfort as well. So, believe me, I'm not a big government guy myself, and yes, you're going to get a lot of decent things that come out of what's been happening, especially with the government. And look at the housing market in Washington, D.C. That's a perfect example where everybody else's housing prices were getting killed in 2008. Those held in there and went up. So I don't know. The government being as big as it is and spending as much money as it is, I'm not a big fan of. But at the same time, I'll take what we've gotten so far because it's better than it was.
We've talked to you before about how important the populace's psyche is when it comes to growth. And Gallup polling finds supermajority people, 60%, feel like they're better off than they were a year ago, and 74% believe that next year is going to be even better. That sort of optimism doesn't just bode well for Trump's reelection. It bodes well for the economy continuing to churn, doesn't it?
100%. I mean, think about it. If you're in the war room of the Democrats right now, what do you attack him on? I mean, the national debt's kind of a nebulous number that you're not going to get a ton of feedback from that or a good play from that. I mean, there's everything else. If you look at what he's done, his policy's been. I mean, you can hate the guy. That's fine. I don't care. But his policy's been fantastic and has put us in great stead. So, I don't even know how you begin to tell the world that this economy is not touching all the corners of of the earth, because it is. And there are a few people, I'm sure, you can find out, that one person that's not doing well because even though the economy's doing well, but by and large, I mean, it's pretty hard to really attack him on anything, and I don't know what they're going to attack him on. I don't know who the opponent's going to be, but this is going to be a pretty difficult thing, and maybe there's going to be some roadkill along the way.
So the question I always ask you, just because we should stay on top of this, I mean, are there things that you see in terms of gathering storm clouds other than debt and deficits?
No, I mean the only thing you could see happening maybe is a black swan, and that's what they thought this coronavirus was. And by the way,
It's not
I don't
over
think it's
yet,
over.
though, Scott.
I don't think it's over. I know, and
Yeah.
I mean, if
and
you own
Amy,
GM stock, aren't you concerned? They have a huge plant in
Amy-
Wuhan, China, that has been sitting idle for 3 weeks now.
Amy's rooting for it.
No, I'm
yeah,
not
well,
rooting for it, but like Nike stock, Adidas, they have
Amy,
all
if
these
I was
workers
you-
in China.
If I was you, I'd wear surgical gloves. I think that'll take care of everything.
I'm already on that,
Yeah,
Scott.
yeah,
I've
yeah,
got
yeah.
them on right now.
Yeah. Mm.
Well, then maybe we should go to the body condom. But I think
I've got one on order.
She's got one from
and
the
a face mask,
from
the
the,
N95 face mask.
yeah,
by
from
the
the
way.
Leslie Nielsen collection. She's got the body
right.
condom.
Well,
Yeah.
she can wear it for Halloween next year. Then I don't think it's over with. And there have been, and I can't spread any rumors, but there have been other reports saying that we can't really trust what we're getting out of the Chinese. I think it will go on a little longer, but I do think, there's some pretty smart people in the markets, and they've showed us with these prices that we see even today, even though we're down, that the markets are pretty comfortable where we're at with this thing and how we're getting in front of it. And I guess I don't see anything economically speaking. Look, we're not seeing any inflation that could hurt. We're seeing steady job growth, and we're actually seeing acceleration. I mean, all of these things are coming into play at the right time. You see what happened with him with his acquittal, the State of the Union, the Iowa caucuses. I mean, it's just like he's going from strength to strength, and the Democrats are they can't get out of the way of themselves.
Since you spent the better part of 2 decades across the pond there in the UK, I wanted to get and since I believe you're soon to be knighted by Queen Elizabeth.
Yeah, okay.
It was a surprise. There was a big reveal at the end of the show. Trump at the
reveal.
impeachment speech, or the State of the Union.
I wanted to get your take on Brexit and the potential for a bilateral trade deal between us and the UK, but also this report that came out sort of upon their small I Independence Day that suggested that the UK's productivity was like the worst in a couple of 100 years, and this was a continued assault on the idea that the UK should break away from the EU. And just so your handle on all of that with respect to Britain's future.
I would say that they had two referendums on leaving Europe. They really had the first one in 2016, but then this election for Boris Johnson was the next referendum on leaving Europe, and it was a landslide. And the general populace is very, very pleased about that. There are going to be some bumps and bruises along the way. Their currency's taken a little bit of a hit. There's a little bit of a worry about what's next, and do we get these, or we as a British citizen, do the trade deals actually come to fruition? However, I would say this, there has been a few things that have come across our desk here. That's, Nissan is threatening to open up plants in Great Britain because they are getting sick of the European Union. And the European Union is really faltering. I mean, we've got an interest rate for our 10-year yield here at 1.58% right now as we speak. France's 10-year yield is in negative. So is Germany's. So there's a lot of problems still over there, and that's something I don't think you want to have that European yoke around your neck. So it's probably going to get a little worse for the UK before it gets better, but there are some big manufacturers out there that are looking to start or move things to the UK. And on top of it, if we do get a trade deal with the UK, that'll be even better. So I'm very bullish on what can happen with them outside of the European Union.
He is Scott Shellady, Fox Business regular. Scott, the cow guy, Shellady, thanks so much for joining us. Appreciate it.
Have a good weekend.
Thank you. And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
You're listening to Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson on AM 560. The Answer.
Daily stress is a big deal. Fact is, the terrible impact of stress is very deadly and shortens our lives. Stressed individuals attract diseases, just like blood in the water attracts sharks. Hi, this is Dr. David Kolbaba. I'm the show host of Health Quest Radio, the longest-running health news and science show in Chicago. In